I've been doing content now for roughly 10 years, and Zulu was a part of it for at least 9 of them. I've never called him Mark because we shared the greatest name ever. It just worked out that way when we were in group calls. He liked the call sign Zulu 1, so that's what we informally agreed upon years ago. I first heard Zulu's voice when we started taking calls for the podcast back in 2015. My co-host was Jonathan from Jersey, and one of the early calls was this baritone voice from New York named Mark Tirado. If you know anything about the East Coast, you will know there is a long-standing rivalry between New Jersey and New York, and that first call seemed so abrasive I never thought Zulu would call again. But he did call back next week, and the week after that, and so on. In fact, he called almost every week for the next 9 years. And it didn't stop there. Zulu organized a behind-the-scenes after-show where hardcore listeners could hang out. He attended meetups, then organized meetups, and of course he went to every conference he could. And that's where I first met him in person. I'll give some backstory from the first conference, which was in 2017. All the FEU t-shirts that everyone's wearing here were custom made by Zulu. He was all in. In the Flat Earth Army, he was a career enlisted soldier. Zulu is behind my elbow. Patricia is below my hand. There's Karen when she wore glasses, Candy, Nathaniel, even David Weiss in the upper left corner. When I say custom shirt, I mean each person had their own. The backs of the shirts had their birth year. Zulu was born in 1967. He couldn't get enough of our community and would volunteer for anything and everything. This is he and I next to the Flat Earth billboard we did for the conference. Here he is with Carly Sunshine and Patricia in the distance. He was also a car guy and loved driving everywhere as fast as humanly possible. Legal had nothing to do with it. I had the pleasure on several occasions to drive in his SUV. It looked like a cop car, and he drove it so aggressively I told him on numerous occasions that he should have been a stunt driver. Most people were afraid to drive with him, but I just pretended we were filming a TV show about buddy cops. This is him with Jesse, Alex Lowry, who does the ending song for the podcast, and that David Weiss guy who I tried to edit out of the picture, but then it just made it look like Alex had a secret boyfriend, and well, I'm pretty sure he does. The last event Zulu attended was a comedy show in November by Jim Brewer. I had done Jim's podcast, and Zulu asked me to put in the good word so he could talk with him backstage. He wore his Flat Earth Fire Department hoodie, gave Jim some custom merch, and was still smiling about it days later. I'm so happy he got to do that. Dedication was an understatement with this guy. I talked with him almost every week for 9 years. His last podcast was episode 488. This is the restream on his channel. He's in the upper left, drumming away with the opening song. Here's a zoom in. He had a great, genuine smile and an even greater laugh. This frame was 7 minutes before he put the sticks down, closed his eyes, and simply went to sleep forever. Lucky son of a bitch. One day they'll probably find me in the shower covered in shampoo or by my mailbox underneath Amazon boxes, something awkward or ridiculous. Zulu died at his machine, still at the controls, streaming my podcast. How fair is that? This is my favorite pick of Zulu and I. It's the last night of the 2017 conference, just before the award show. I love this side of Zulu. Dressed up, drink in hand, hoping he would meet the ghost of Sinatra. That's where the end of the show evolved from. He would make sure he was the last call. I would pick up and sing the first few bars of New York, New York. I'm just going to read it because I can't sing it here without probably losing it. Zulu and I changed the words slightly. Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. And then he would chime in with New York, New York. Then he would follow with in my vagabond shoes. They are longing to stray, and that's where he stopped, because even though he had a deep voice, he hated singing. After the call, he would hang on the phone for a few minutes while we wrapped up the show. Most weeks, he got the last line as I would simply tell him to say, "Goodnight Zulu." Then he would briefly pause and say, "Goodnight Zulu." It's funny. Then we rolled credits. If you ever want to rewind and find him, just go to the end of any show before 473, and there he is, stoking the fires. I'd like to think he's having drinks with a new group now, telling stories about us and laughing until he cries.